Good morning, everybody. It's a little before 8, but I thought I'd get started anyway. I haven't figured out how to get two audio streams in, so I can't really capture music like I wanted to, but I've got some music on my phone so it doesn't get too boring. And let's go ahead and get started. So, if you're new to the channel, this is where I design Microfighter Star Wars spaceships. Hopefully, we'll do some other stuff and some other projects, but we're going to start that to keep the ball rolling. Last week we left off with a T-wing. It was a ship that I wasn't really happy with myself for having not done. So I went ahead and added it to the ever-growing list of ships that I haven't done before. So this was where we left off last time, and you can see it's nearly complete. I'll pull up a shot of a T-wing real quick and what we were working on. It's always good, some of these more obscure ones, to add Star Wars to the search, because sometimes you get cars or actual airplanes. So this is I think this was the image we were working on, or working from. It's pretty basic. You can kind of see where everything's going. And again, you can see we've got it mostly figured out. But what I didn't like was a couple things. I wasn't really sure where to attach these, the side wings, and I wasn't really happy with how tall this was, but still you have to have clearance over the minifigure's head. So I played around with it for a little bit longer, and this is what I ended up with. And this is where I'm kind of going to leave it. I don't know if you can tell if I've actually shortened the... it doesn't look like I shortened the top pylon at all much. So that's still there. I recolored some of it. I wanted to show you this because this was kind of shortly after that, after the stream was finished last time. And... you can see that this meets all the criteria for it. If you look at the image, the wings are attached kind of under the fuselage, the engine compartment fuselage here, and it works. You know, that's where they attach, but it doesn't look anything like it, and it's a little goofy. So I did away with that, and I went with something a little more pushed off to the side. So this is where we left that. So I'll render this one and add it to the ever-growing list of microfighters that I have. I haven't got any new parts recently for the microfighters. I was able to. I did get a couple parts to finish off some of the. There's a current one, a sand speeder that I was able to get finished, which was an exclusive for, I think, New York Comic-Con. I'm not really sure, but I got the parts in for that. So I put up a photo on Instagram of the current fleet as it is now, which is all of them minus the Vulture droid. Still need the parts for that, including the 5 or 6 that I've done, and then I ordered parts for 2 more coming in, so we'll get that going. Maybe the next stream I'll hold off and I'll build those for the next stream when I get those parts in. I have no idea what the output is for. I don't have my headphones in, and I think the mic for the Mac will pick up the audio. I'm not going to really know until after the stream, so if the music's too loud, leave a comment. I'll go back through and listen to it later. Again, I couldn't figure out why... Oh, that's a hidden... I'll get rid of that. I couldn't figure out the the OBS software. There's a plugin to make a separate audio device so you can capture different audio, but for whatever reason the driver wasn't working on this MacBook Air, so I'll have to work on that before next week. Also, I'm thinking of doing these in the evening so people can watch them, so they don't have to wake up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday to do it. But again, I have to make sure that I have got time to do this kind of thing, because it takes about an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, depending on what I'm doing. Anyway, that's the T-wing, so we'll save that off. and we'll get rid of these other guys, and I'll render this later. The other thing I was working on this week was I did a lot of instructions, and I put a couple up on Rebrickable. I try to do one a day on Rebrickable, so I added 5 or 6 last week. And the one I'm working on, the last one I left, and I kind of left it alone so I could kind of show you the process, was, oh, that was weird, was the radius. So this is the radius, and if you go down and see, look, all the, do the step view, and you look at all the steps, you can see this is the radius. And the screenshot has the minifigure of General Leia. So this would be from the movie The Last Jedi. Oh, my coffee's not kicking in yet, so cheers. This is the song last week I was bobbing my head to. This is my favorite song. Same soundtrack. This is Lukhash. I'll put the link in the description. This is the Radis. This is the ship that was the last ship, the last capital ship that was left after the First Order surprised them on their planet, and they fled with 4 ships. A bunker buster, the Radis, Nebulon C frigate, and then there was one other one, and I have it on my list, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. It's another smallish capital ship. This is one Admiral Holdo rammed into the Supremacy with the light speed ramming. But I already gave Vice Admiral Holdo the bunker buster, because that's her ship when the movie starts. She transfers from that to the Radis. And I always felt like the Radis was General Leia's ship. So to start, what I would do is I would get the entirety of I don't necessarily build everything step by step. I just build as fast and as quick as I can usually, and I try to keep it as like the actual ship. So if we look up, if you don't know what the Radis looks like without having Admiral Radis show up. So this is the ship from, and then you can see this is the bunker buster, and this is the Mon Calamari ship. I forget what type of ship is. It's a Mon Calamari cruiser of some kind. But you can see there's certain things I wanted to keep to make the ship look as much like it does in the actual movie. Mon Calamari ships are very hard to build in general. They have a sort of color quality that's hard to pin down. I know a lot of people will build them with white and tan, and that is a fairly good look. But they also seem a bit like they have a lot of gray in them. You can see right here, it's got a bit of gray. It almost looks like green. It looks like it was built by a seafaring people, which it was. But I wanted to keep the pointed nose, and kind of it tapers really nicely, and then it kind of expands a little bit in the back. So this is another instance where this piece was integral to the build, because I think that encapsulates it as, as best as possible. And then the rest of it's just kind of making everything try to fit the way it does. And there's a lot of things like this kind of stuff under here. We don't have a really good shot of the underside of the ship, so I kind of take some liberties. We do have a good shot of the back of the ship, so I know to make the engine block as much of a likeness. I don't know if we're going to be able to find it or not, but some of these modeled ships give a good indication if people have, look at that, shows up. But here's a good shot of, like, this is what the engine block looks like, so you take that into account. 2 main ones, 4 on the sub-ion drives, and then it looks like a couple more steering thrusters maybe. So you bundle all those up in there. So when I do instructions during the process, I'll take the entirety of it and drop it into a lower step. So this all started in step 1, right? All the parts were in step 1. So I dropped everything into a lower step, and then I'll create a new step and drag them up as they get built. So you can see that's first step, and then you take a bunch of 2x4 plates, and then the next thing will be probably, actually it looks like, what is that, 1x3, so there's something attached above it. Probably some brackets of some kind. Let's try those bricks. But anyway, this is the process for making the instructions for them. And then what I'll do afterwards, and I probably should have had one for later, a little later on in the process. Because what you can, oh, forget I'm working on a Mac. Here we go. And drop them in a new step, and so now, now you've got that step. And you just repeat it until the whole thing's built. And then Studio, or Stud.io, has a great function called Instruction Maker. And don't show that again, because I know that's what I'm doing. And it's going to be really weird because I don't have it all done, but it shows you the steps that you're going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, done. And it'll show you the steps that you're going to go through to build it, right? So the first part is breaking it up into steps. The next part's ensuring that those steps look right, and then the final part is making it nice on the paper, right? And that's obviously going to change. And then you can download this and share it out with people. And so this is what I put on Rebrickable. The instructions are made like this. Somebody's doing some work. Their name is ImpBricks, and that's their screen name. I'm not really sure what their actual name is, and so shout out to ImpBricks. They're someone who found some of my stuff on Rebrickable, and they are doing sort of a catalog of instructions. And they take this and they rework it, and it's really nice stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing the final product. So keep an eye out for that. I'll post that up somewhere. So that's the instructions. It's it doesn't take long once the ship's done. Probably about a half hour to break it all up into steps. So we'll save that. So now we're going to go find a new ship to work on. I don't think I have anything really specific. Oh, and you know what? Give me a minute because I think I forgot to save out my list. So I have to remote into my office because I keep track of everything on a text file. And then I upload it to Google, but I forgot to upload it to Google, so I'm going to do that real quick so I have access. But I probably don't need to do that now that I can look at it. And you've seen the list before. I think it's a pretty, we still have it. I can do this later. Ship list. So it's pretty extensive. For those who didn't watch last time, this is the list of everything these are all the built, or the official Star Wars or official Lego sets. And a couple of these I wasn't able to buy, but I BrickLinked the parts. BrickLink is really awesome, and it's going to take a lot of my money. This I can officially move to built. This one I'm waiting on parts. This one got built. I'm going to sneeze any second, I apologize. This one was another, excuse me. I'm in Austin, and the allergies are just awful lately. So this one, the Jack 14 Stealth Fighter, it was a set, but they also did a Microfighter of it. Again, it's another Comic-Con or Celebration exclusive. And this is another one where the figure, the Jack 14, I think is a, I'm going to look it up because I want to make sure I don't give everybody the wrong information. He's a clone, or he's a stormtrooper or something like that, who develops force powers. I'm not really sure. I think he was just in the Lego only, a Lego only show. But anyway, the figure for him is expensive, so I've been holding off on buying the remaining parts for that because without the figure, it's kind of ridiculous. So there's that. Slave 1's done. that out easily. Alright, so this is the Slave One. This is the Celebration 4 exclusive. Oh, this was done before. Yeah, you guys have all seen this. So this is the Slave One. These are all the parts you can order from BrickLink. That's not the actual figure. The actual figure, like we discussed previously, has printed legs. This one is close, but it doesn't have printed legs. So if I wanted to, I could probably buy the figure, but I think, again, that figure's, I think we saw that it was like $7, maybe 14. Same with the Jack 14 figure, it's expensive. So anyway, moving on. These are all done. This one, I just did an instruction for. So these are all the ones that are mine. These are all the ones that are designed by other people, which I will probably do instructions for, but I won't post them on Rebrickable, just because I don't like trying to capitalize either with reputation or monetarily with other people's designs. A couple of the ships that I've done are based on some of these, so it's not completely 100% my own stuff. But, sorry, I'm just trying to close some stuff out over here. I'm partnering with a person who's doing sets and whatnot for his shows, and I want to make sure that anytime that he does one of the ones that I've designed, I'm okay with it, whatever. But if he sees the giant list of everything and goes, oh, I want to do that one, and be like, okay, well, make sure you approach. I can give him the links to the people who designed it, and like make sure you approach them first, because it's weird with, you know, stuff you build and put in the public sphere where it's already based on an IP. It's already, you know, using material that's provided by a vendor. You don't also want to like start impeding on designers' areas of expertise and their work. So I try to. It's kind of a weird artist thing. I'm coming from an artist background. I don't like when art is aped by other people. It's okay to do homages, but it's, you know, it's different. Anyway, way off on a tangent. So let's see. We've done the T-Wing, so I can move that one, and I'll do that later. But let's see what else we've got. Starforge is an interesting ship. The DH Omni is kind of a weird ship, although Ponkrell's a good character. I think somebody just did a minifigure of Ponkrell. It's a double tall minifigure with 2 arms. It's very interesting looking. But the DH Omni is a weird ship. It's like a big double sphered looking. Yeah, so it's a weird kind of. It'll be an interesting one to do. I'm not sure I'm in the mood to do this yet. I think that's a CIS ship. That's CIS marking, I believe. Plus it's got the gray and blue. So not really my bag right at the moment. Munificent-class Star Frigate. Okay, now this one's going to be interesting because I think we've done this one. Kind of. There's a lot of these CIS or separatist ships that I get mixed up a lot. But a Munificent-class, let's see what that looks like. That might be a good one to do because that's Count Dooku. Munificent. And there's a lot of prep work I didn't do for this just because it's 8 in the morning and I was tired. Star Frigate. Alright, yeah, this would be a good one to do. I like the shape of this one. And I thought about changing up the minifigure, but I'm not going to worry about it. We'll just do Dooku for the time being. And this looks like a really good image to start with. But we're going to also need kind of side views, and you can see some people have done some Lego versions of it. That's a good view right there. That's a really good view right there. I also want to get like undersides and the backs of them, because I know these guys have these guys are interesting ships because they're almost every piece of weaponry they have is under these giant hull cowls. So I got to make sure to get those built right. So let's see if there's sort of a, and I think we're just going to do the regular Star Frigate. I don't think we're going to do the extra ones. That just seems egregious. But you can see it almost looks like a sort of a, you could make a handgun out of that. Let's see if there's a good model. That's pretty good, but again, the image isn't very big. I'm trying to find something. That's a good back shot, so we know it's got 2 engines underneath that. That's pretty good. Let's see, can we do this one? How big is that? Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that'll work great. So this is going to be awesome. So we can do... No, it won't let me. All right. I can do big or small. It looks like it's got a cluster of engines, and this top and bottom protrusion looks like it's about the same shape and size. And we've got some stabilizer wings out there. I'm not really sure what they're stabilizing on a capital ship, but then you can see the kind of, that's an interesting build out. I don't know if it's actually that hollow or not, but it's got that giant turbo laser in there, and it's got sort of the observation deck on it. All right, it's gonna be fun. So hopefully this isn't somebody's interpretation of it, because I'm gonna build it based off this. So let's get started. And again, we're gonna do, let's get rid of the Radis. We're 23 minutes in. I wonder if I can do open recent. Well, let's do this. Let's get the T-wing, and then we can get him. Copy. Paste. And then we're gonna break him apart. So we want to do Count Dooku. You know, I think I had this discussion with somebody, and I'm trying to remember if I was going to do a different pilot for, oh, somebody's in chat. Good morning. There's something about, with the CIS class ships, I was going to do Trench, I was going to do a tactical droid, I think I was going to put Grievous on one. Let's look at this list again. Yeah, Trench, he was that spider figure. Maelstrom, these are clones. Some older stuff, some legend stuff. Yeah, I can't remember what I decided to do. I guess just do Count Dooku. It's just easy enough for right now. So, and I apologize for the audio of the mouse clanking on everything, but I'll have to get a mouse pad. So we're going to change just about everything here, but we can keep the legs. Legs are going to be black. Belt is going to be, we're going to do kind of a reddish belt. And then we need a new torso. I'm going to do a Jedi torso because he's Jedi-ish, although he's got a bit of a different... Oh, you know what? I never figured out that whole Mac thing either. Get rid of that. And I really don't like the way that looks. Is there a... Sometimes the highlight print on the torsos is a little garish. And they've got a couple other options, but you have to kind of know what to call it. And these are not Star Wars. Sometimes they don't list them like that. They used to list them if I just did that. Robes. I guess that's it. Oh, wait. There's another one. Yeah, that's better. That's an Obi-Wan or a Qui-Gon, but the dark of the highlights there will work better. Yeah. And then his arms are black. So I've been playing Star Wars Battlefront, and I haven't been able to really get a chance to play Anakin yet, so I'm stuck playing the most recent ones, which are Obi-Wan and Grievous and Dooku, and I cannot figure Dooku out. He is just an incredibly weird character to play, and every time somebody comes up against me with him, I get my butt kicked. And it's another one of those things where I think I'm a good player, but sometimes I just get worked and it's a little embarrassing. I think that's going to be good because he's got kind of a scowly old beard. And we'll make it that color, get rid of that. And then he's got the very specific swept, I think it is. It's a very, very prominent. There it is. This is, I think this is from Palpatine or Senator Palpatine's hair. We're going to make that gray. Light bluish gray. Or maybe dark bluish gray. Yeah, so there's Dooku. That'll work for now. I've got him in the, he's got a solar sailor too, so I'll just group him so we can move him around. Alright, so back to the ship. Brilliant. We'll probably sit him right on the wings. This looks like a good spot because there doesn't seem to be anything on top of it that needs to be seen. Yeah, so this is a good area. This is just a lot of greebling that we don't need to have happen. The only thing I'm concerned about is if there's no real sides to this coming up, so he may have to sit down farther into it. I think we can make that work. So let's see, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on this other monitor too so I can kind of keep an eye on it. Munificent-class images. Again, the music is Lukhash. I'll put the description in the comments below later, or in the description. I really like them. I've been listening to him for a couple years. And I hope this video doesn't get yanked because I contacted him and he said that he was licensed through YouTube and there may be an area of the world that I don't get played in, but you know, I'd like to get some stream-friendly music to work with. So if you know of any good places to get stream-friendly music or know how to get the music integrated into the playlist so I can listen to it on my headphones and there's the second audio, let me know. Reach out. We'll figure it out. So there's a sizable, let me show you this. There's a sizable bay area here. I think we'll get him to sit in, but it's got all these kind of side panels. It has a long spine, but we'll have to break that up here and back here for him to sit down in it. So this will be broken up a little bit. I'm going to default to my brackets because brackets seem to be the way to go. Brackets. Acts a little funny. I'm not used to this. Now this is going to be a longer and bigger ship, so I want to do a bigger bracket this time. And he might be able to sit on this entire bracket, which would be great. So let's just plop him on there for now. And this, of course, is all going to be light blue or light gray and with these weird blue highlights. And honestly, I think it's going to be not too bad to be like a sand blue. We might be able to get some slopes that are that color. Sand blue is kind of a rare color. Light blue might be better, but we'll see. So everything's going to be light bluish gray. And again, I'm keeping an eye on the exclamation points over here to show up, because if there's not a, I'm not going to build it if there's no color available for it. I don't want to put these out online for everybody to build and have them not be able to be built because they don't exist in that color. There's a few designs out there that I had to go through when I reverse engineered them, and I had to replace everything. And we discussed this last week with the chrome parts that they're so few and far between. But if you wanted to build a Naboo starfighter, you kind of need them. So if we go back to this, it's going to be, I'm just going to throw some plates in here just to see how it goes. This is probably going to be too long, but we'll see what happens. Again, don't want that. Oh, that reminded me. I'm going to take a second to look up something. Oh, this mouse is not moving right. There was, oh, preferences. I read something about it turning into a copy for every time you release, but I have to look it up later. I'll just have to deal with it. I don't want the whole stream to be me troubleshooting studio. Yes, don't save. Okay. So again, that's going to be, you know what, I'm going to default all the parts to light blue gray, so I don't have to change them every time. Alright, so we got that. I wish they made like a U-shaped bracket. They probably do, but I think that's going to be a bit big. So we'll do this as the underside here. And then a 2x4 in the front. Because again, this is going to be forked. If you look at the image, it's going to be a forked look, but it still has to have some structure to put the observation tower on. I don't think that's the bridge. I think that's just an observation tower, but it might be the bridge. A lot of Star Wars ships have, I think these CIS ships especially, I think that's the bridge, and these like the observation pontoons or something. I really don't like the idea of things that are exposed to space having bridges that are way protruding out there and made of glass. That's just me. I'm a fan of Battlestar Galactica's bridge. That was the new one. That was basically in the bowels of the ship, or in the center of the ship where it's nice and protected. I'm going to go ahead and pull up wedge. So here's going to be the issue, is there's going to be a shaped piece that I like in here. That is a curved, wedged piece. And you can hear the wheels squeaking. I think it's going to be this one. I want it to be rounded, though. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that without it being really big. Yeah, because I want it to be this, but split. And I don't think that exists. So we may have to do it like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and put one here and one here, and we'll just try to work around that. So I almost want to do, this might be the easiest thing to do. Again, microfighters are, you want to keep them small, but you want to make sure that they have the detail that you need. I think I ran out of music. Let's see. Did I run out of music? Yeah, so we'll just start it over. When I used to do robot drawings, I would, there was a site called Jamendo that was a French music site that you could get royalty-free music for download. So I would download a bunch of that and play that in the background of the drawings that I was doing. I think it's different for streaming because I don't care if I download it or not. What I ended up with was a lot of music later in life that was, I couldn't remember where it came from, and it turns out it was probably because I downloaded it off that site. And this is the one time that I don't mind the copying thing. So this is going to be a quick kind of, let's try, yeah, those don't exist in that part. Sadly, oh, this is without, what did I do? Oh, I don't want those pieces. No, go away. What did I get? Without? Oh, it was without the... Yeah, alright. So I do want these. Yeah, so this is, again, we ran into this last time where you have to be really careful of the part description. These obviously look the same. Here's a trick in Studio that I don't know if everybody knows or not, but you can rotate them within the palette to see what they look like. I don't want these. These are old and expensive. You could probably get white and clear ones and black ones from like way back in the 90s. But these are ubiquitous. These are everywhere. And I could probably get them in sand blue. So let's see. No? Sand blue. I can. Fantastic. So that is a pretty good match to that. Now, there's the CIS logo on the side. I don't think there's anything in BrickLink or in the Lego catalog that has a CIS logo. We can look. Oh yeah, here's me trying to set up multi-audio streams. Oh, this is taking forever. Anyway, so that's a good thing right there. If we looked at the image again, so you can tell it's split, but I'm not sure if that's going to be either big enough or, I mean, it's probably good because it'll give it an idea of what it is. We might be able to even extend it a little bit, but again, it's got a whole back engine thing that I want to make sure that we get built in. Oh, get rid of that. So I don't want to get too big because I wouldn't say the last couple, the middle range of Microfighters that I was doing were on the large side. Like some of them were 200 pieces. Let me really quick show you what I'm talking about. I don't need this anymore. Let me see if I can find one. I was working on the T6, the Jedi shuttle. The T6 has a very pronounced feature in that it has a wing that rotates like this. And it's super cool. Like when I first saw the ship in Clone Wars, I was very excited and I wanted to build it. And I was trying to build it minifigure scale, and I might be able to do it now, but it was ridiculous. Like the engineering behind trying to get the fuselage, the cockpit and the main fuselage and the engine block to stay while the wing rotated was a lot harder than you'd think, without also making it just like loose all over the place. Like you had to be, you can get click turntables or ratchet turntables that will click so they'll stay in place, but they're these big blocks, right? Let me show you. Where are they? So this is what I was trying to work with. Because you can just make a big ring and then put something in the middle of it and it'll turn. That's no problem. But you want it to be stable. So you want to get one of these rotating click turntables, right? So it'll stay in place. That's pretty basic. But what I ended up with, that's fine on a large scale, and I think they did something similar for the actual Lego set, which I never got, and it was a hollow click turntable, or it had a base and then a ring that would click, and it was a Technic, so it had pins so you could put the wings on it, but it would rotate around the main core of the fuselage. So trying to replicate that on a Microfighter scale was not, I mean, you can see that's not Microfighter. This size right here, this is about as big as the X-Wing, just this little cockpit. But, and I might pull this up later because I'm going to be redoing this. I'm going to try to make it smaller. But in order to get the shape and the look of the shuttle, it almost felt like these were the minimum amount of parts that I could do, right? I mean, this thing is kind of a beast, but you can see how small that is. This part right here and this whole engine block here stay in place. This little ring right here is all that rotates with the giant wings out here. So that was really hard to replicate with this. I think I did a pretty good job, but because it works, but it was so massive. And there was another one, what's it called? It is a, I'm totally losing my train of thought. Mandalorian. So there's a Mandalorian fighter that does the same thing, and the Mandalorian fighter is a little smaller. I'm surprised I don't have it up here. Oh, because these aren't mine. This is somebody else's design that I had to reverse engineer. I'm a little sad because a lot of the reverse engineered ones, they're really good. I'm trying to work up to being as good as the people who have designed these. Some of them are just amazingly good. But again, I had to reverse engineer off like a single photo, so a lot of the internal stuff may not be as good. But you can see here, it's the same concept. So there's this little click wheel back here. And I don't know, I think it's a little different because some of them have like Technic holes. But anyway, this is also really big for a Microfighter. It's almost a regular. I think this is almost as big as like the Eclipse Starfighter. So it's not really a Microfighter. It's just a ship at this point. But in order to be able to get the wings to rotate, so if you've got a minifigure sitting, right, and you have to have something rotate over it, it at least has to be that big, right, all the way up and down. So these click things are just about perfect for that. But that also means it's really bulky on either side of it. And if you make it more bulky on one side, then you got to make it proportional with the wings, and it's just, so it's a lot of work to figure it out, but it's fun. So there's a tangent. That basically is all to say that I don't want this to be too big, right? That's probably a pretty good size. We could even, and I'm trying to think about how I want to do this. If we wanted to do the bridge as a single stud in the middle, and I'll show you what I mean here in a second. This is all part of the experimental process of doing these. Is maybe I'll take these and move them over one, and then have, see, that I think looks a little better. In that case, we could also almost get another stripe in there. And would that look too weird comparatively? No, that's pretty long. Okay. So what I might do is figure out a different way instead of a bracket, because I like the way this looks a little better. And then we can put a single bridge protrusion in there. And the bridge protrusion looks like, well, that's going to be weird. I'm going to need some trans light green bits. But I think that would be doable with some cheese slopes. It's got an underside too, so I'm not really sure how to do that yet. So let's cram on this. Oops, put my caps lock on. So cheese slope, and do they make these in trans light green? So I'm gonna pick green, trans light green. As a Lego fan, I have no problem saying trans green, but I know that I've said it sometimes and people look at me like, and I know they're not a Lego fan or a Lego builder. I've got a bunch of extra parts over here that are getting in the way of the mouse cable. Alright. Trans bright green. Huzzah! That's perfect. So that's good. So then we need probably, I don't know, you kind of have to give it a, it can't be exact, but it has to be as close as you can get it. Paint. So this will be, and this I think is going to start being, I'm going to do the interior of these as a darker gray. Nope. Actually, let's do a 1x2. What you run into a lot too with Star Wars ships is they are, it's like doing any naval craft. They don't come in nice bright colors. So everything's going to be gray. Everything's going to be kind of depressing. I wonder if we can do plates in that color. Does it exist in that color? It does not. That's sad. Sad face. But I think, yeah, I think what I'll do is, so another image of that. That's probably fine. I don't need to be any bigger than that. So now, I'll just do a darker plate. And then I'm going to do a lever, otherwise known as antennas. I like doing the split ones like this because I can control the angle. When you put the whole thing out, this whole thing, there's no, you can't really control the angle of it. Also, I don't know what the color is, availability. I don't think, nah. So it has to be this color, which is kind of a bummer. It could be black, I think. Get over there. Yeah, so this whole thing could be black. So that's pretty good. We'll just stick with that. Now to have it kind of lean forward a little bit. So this is going to have to be jumpered because this is going to be 3 wide and it's going to bleed into a 2 wide. Something I was doing with the Radis was I had a 4 wide hull, and then sort of the front half of the hull was an offset, was an odd stud count, so it was 3, and then it had some wedges going off to the side. And then I had a Technic brick in here with some pins that joined it, so it was 2 sections that were joined because it was odd sized over here. I have to go back and look at it because I don't think when it's practically built, when it's actually built in real life, it's going to stay up very well, but we'll see. Again, the size of these ships and vehicles are small enough that you can get away with a lot of stuff that you couldn't with a larger ship. So just because the weight isn't there and there's not a lot of tension pulling on different sides. So, but this is going to be 3 wide because I like the look of this better. Now we need to have this kind of protruding up a little bit. So let's think about this. I like these pieces. I don't know where they go. I'm not going to have it on hand. I want to say it's called a claw or a clip. Nope. Arm maybe. Yeah, some of these pieces, the having the knowledge of what parts are out there is probably the hardest part of designing these. And if you were any kind of master builder, I'm sure that's a trouble you run into where you get done building it and you think, oh, I could have used that. That would have been great. It's called like machine. Ah, there it is. Okay. Mechanical arm, bionicle. What is the difference? Thick support. I don't know what the difference is. So these guys, I think that would be really cool. Look. And that means that I can do 1x2 modified. Squeak, squeak, squeak. I don't know how this will look, but I like the idea of it. It needs to be dark gray. Oh, we're not going to be able to do that. Oh, I think they make them in dark gray. Brilliant. So put that there. And we'll put these guys on that. Let's see, what does that look like? That looks like junk. Alright, so that was that's not what I want. So what I'll probably end up doing, let's just get rid of these guys all together. Done, 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 done. Okay. This will be easy. 2x1 inverted slope. That's better. Sometimes simpler is better, but you don't always know until you experiment a little and try. And I think I can just get away with doing... I work on a PC most of the time, so the functions in a Mac really throw me. Let's see if I can just wedge it in here so I can get a look. Alright, so, and then I want to, nope, I'm going to raise it. Why can't I, where are my function keys at? No? Oh, oh, this may be a second. Where are the preferences? Not system preferences. General, resize, brick inserting. Repeat inserting a selected brick. Yes, get rid of that. That's part of what I was looking for. Appearance, shortcuts. Model. Add a step. Hide, no. I want to be able to move. There's a move function. I'm covering my mouth and you can't hear what I'm saying. Brick control. Oh, here we go. Move forward and backward. Okay, so let's do that, that, move left, move right. Okay. So now, let's just test this. Oh, my day is so much better now. And you were all here to watch. Aren't you feeling good about yourselves? Alright, and it's not holding on to that. Alright, so the reason I changed that is so I could nudge these. Now there's also grid control here that you can fine tune a little bit. So how far up is that guy? He's about that far. Actually, a little, that's probably too much. That's probably good, yeah? Right in the middle of that. I like that. Okay, so now we need to attach these guys underneath. Get rid of the floor. And there is, oh, it's hard to see really. There is a lot of junk in here, a lot of greebling and whatnot, but I'm not going to be able to do anything this size. I'm trying to think of stuff, like these guys are great for greebling. And they are used in all kinds of models LEGO uses. So I'm going to put these guys in there. Like this, probably. Just kind of underneath there. Now here's going to be kind of a hard part because... No. What are you doing? Go away. This is kind of a sloped up V kind of thing, meeting those plates, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. So we're just going to do, we're going to have to cram a little gun in there and a little bit of whatever that is, superstructure, or substructure. This looks like apartment buildings in Brazil or something. I wish I could get a little closer on that. Again, this is somebody's render. So I don't think this is super official or anything, but it's got a lot of good views and it's very detailed, so this is what we're working with. So at this point, I'm going to need to start joining things together, but I want to be as thin as possible. It's still going to have to be joined together. There are good 3x3 plates. These are newish. In the last year or so, and they're going to save my bacon. And then I'll do a 2x3 plate. And that will be that. And I think I'll make these dark. Alright, so that's our front end. Now, we have a choice of jumpering them. Which I'm not super keen on, but I don't really have another way to do it at the moment. So let's take one of these, move it around here and put him under there, and then take this whole group, put him over here. Alright, so we've got that. That doesn't work too bad, actually. And what I might be able to do now is sit him in here. So we could almost get rid of all of this. Get rid of. Although, you know what? I'm going to do a longer piece under here because I need it to go back into the back. And again, these need to be dark because the interior of that was kind of dark. And then oh, you know what's perfect for right there? 1x2 hinge plate. These guys are great underside of stuffed greebling. Oh, except it's, okay. Well, I can't do that there. I need a 1x something. I'll figure that out later. So this will have to go under, we're going to have to attach it to another thing here and pull out another big cowl slope hull bit. So we're right here. That's where that is. And then this whole thing will have to be attached, and he's going to sit in here. So let's put him in here. And that's perfect. Look at that. He fits right in there. Now what I'll be able to do is, oh, and this will work too because there's nothing really flush about that. I'm going back to the brackets. Brackets are awesome. Seriously, when I was a kid, I would call these arches for some reason. Maybe I want those a little higher. Oh, you know what? These need to be wings too. I may not do brackets on that just yet. When I was a kid, we called these arches, and I don't understand why we did that. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that the term was bracket. because, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have BrickLink. We didn't even have the internet. I don't like those just yet. I'm sure I'll use them here in a minute, but what I really want is... So now we're going to have to worry about the structure of the wing. So he's going to be sitting right here, but we'll have to have enough structure around this to build a wing. So first, let's see how big a wing we want. So we're going to do wedge plate, because they're not called wings. And we want them big enough to where it indicates that there is a wing, but not so big as that the model is monstrous. So it has to be proportional. And I think that will probably do. Once we get it attached, I don't want it to be too big. That's probably a good size, yeah? Alright. So we can attach these by... I really like where he's sitting. And those go pretty much under the cowling. So here's the wings, and it goes flush with that. So we raised them up a little bit and got rid of, well, not got rid of, but duplicated that. And then we can color that color. Now here's the other thing. Would it look better? Because that's a good size, but there's also a bigger wedge plate. It would look better with it close in, and so I think that's too big. Yeah, I think that's too big. So let's leave it as is. And there's some doodads on the end of this, and I don't know what they are. I don't have a cross-sections book, so I can't tell if they're rear-facing blasters or stabilizers or vents or heat sinks or something. But, you know, they look as they do, so now we got to put something on here. And I think the easiest way to do this is going to be to do a clip, which I think these are funnily called clips, even though they aren't. They've got a ring. This is a little too detailed for this early in the game, but I kind of wanted to get to it, and we'll just put a cone on the end of that. Again, here's the cones. These are the newer ones, the ones with the top groove, I believe. So hopefully when I go to order the parts, they're there. Now, here's another thing. This is very, very flat, but we don't want to add too many parts. But we want to keep the wedge shape. I almost want to put this under to keep the wedge shape, and I'll show you why here in a second. So let's try that. Because there's these little things right here that look really cool if you put some grill plates on it. Not those, although those are pretty cool. So that looks nifty. And it kind of flattens out the whole thing. So we can almost do, except it's a little low, huh? Is that a little low? Yeah. Alright. So what we could do then is take the whole thing and put it on top. Massa beta. And I'm putting these guys underneath. Ideally, I'd like something that just goes exactly off the end of this, but I don't know that there's a part for that. Alright, so before anything else, can't believe this was stupid of me to do. This is a Munificent-class Frigate. and for now I'm just saving it in downloads because I'm going to move it all later. So let's see, we want to attach this now. This might have to be, again, it might be getting a little big, but hopefully I can just make it thicker instead of bigger or longer. This we can get away with kind of copying the front end, but so we can do this and just spin it, but then it's shorter. And I don't think, yeah, it's enclosed a little bit. So we might be able to do, no, it's going to be too close. And there's just a single piece like that. Is there anything on top of that? See, here's the problem, is that it's smaller, but there's still this thing poking out of the top of it. So it's not as wide as this, but it still has this, which means it needs something in between those two wedge shapes. Oh, and also it does look like those break apart in the back, so okay. So let's keep this split apart. We'll just duplicate the jumper bits on the front. I think it has these weird cowls. I just call them cowls because I don't know what else to call them. Baffling. On the undersides too, and I think we can get away with doing some, I'll show you the part I'm thinking of, some claws or tooth. Yeah, these. So we can put these kind of underneath. I'm just going to pull these out so I remember we talked about them. So we'll do 2 of those because that's about the size, right? All right, so I'll leave those out. And sometimes I'll do that. I'll leave out parts that I think would work well. My brain goes farther than the software can handle, and I overthink things, and I just throw things out there. I shouldn't blame the software. My brain doesn't work faster than the software. The software is instant. But I try to get ideas out as quick as I can. This I'm still jamming on a little bit. I don't really have a good fix for that. Like, nothing jumps out at me as what to do in small scale for that area. But let's go ahead and, while we've got it going underneath here, this looks really fragile though. I mean, doesn't it? It doesn't look like it's a capital ship. It looks like it's just being barely held together. But there's a lot of underneath slopes, so we'll get, there's a perfect part for that. It's a 2x2 inverted slope. And then we need something for that gun to sit on. A giant turbo laser. So let's look at the turbo laser real quick. Maybe we could build that and kind of, is it 2? Sorry, I'm jumping around a lot. I think it's hard to tell. I think it's just 2 coming out of that. So it's anything of that size, I don't think it's going to work really well. So what we'll have to do, and I have an idea. These binoculars are fantastic, but the problem is I was going to do 1x1 round plate to get that circle on the side of it, to get that look, because that fits in there. And then you could do lipstick. I don't know if that's going to work or not. I mean, it says it fits, but what are you going to do? And then Technic. That's not how you spell Technic. Technic pen. Oh, this is a pen bar. Yeah, that's what it is. That'll fit in there. That doesn't look really good. These are almost the same thing, but they've got a little extra on them. And they taper a bit down, so I almost would rather have these turned around like that and then This lipstick is such a cheat. They come in white as well, all white. So you can use them for some great snot building, especially when you're using these guys. Some snot building with some 1x1 bricks with the studs on the sides, and you just put a little bit of lipstick in there, and then you can join them to other things. It's such a cheat. They made the lipstick for, I think it was the Friends line, and they were all gray, and then they had different colored tops for the lipstick. But then for whatever reason, they built a just white. The handle's white, the lipstick's white, for no reason. And it was almost a nod to the AFOL mock builders who were like, this is a really good part. We could use this. So they did. So I don't think this is going to work, but it needs to be small like that. It needs to be stacked on top of each other. Man, if I go too big, like I almost want to do a 2x2 modified. I forget what this is called, this plate. It's the plate with the little raised end on it. Ah, there we go. This might be a little too big, but we're going to try it. Oh, and they don't have that same connection. See, that looks okay, and I could put like a round. Nah, I don't like it. The other thing is these may be too big too, and I'm getting kind of far away from center, so let's put these over here. Make sure that's centered. Nope. Go away. Okay. Yeah, that may be too big for the underside of that. So we may do something smaller, like just some bars or something. Allie. Come here, Allie. Come here, Allie. Yes. Everybody, this is Allie. Say hi, Allie. Say hi, Allie. There's a good Allie. Yes. All right. So that's Allie. Not really sure where to go from here. So you can do bars too. These are the very small lightsaber bars, or arrow bolts. They're called arrow bolts sometimes. Yeah, see bar arrow. And they mostly come in brown, but they do come in other colors. They're more expensive, the different colors they get. But see, this is already, that needs to be dark, and I can't do that in dark. The other thing is I can't do these in dark either. Yeah, they won't exist. So I have to find something that's a dark color that I can put on it. Because if you look at this, it's got a round, it's probably pretty wide, but I can't have it wider than just this, right? It has to kind of sit in a center bit, and it has to be too tall, and has to have some protruding stuff. So I may work on that later. But in the meantime, we can extend this out a little bit. So I think the simplest thing will be do like a, to give it a little bit of greebling, we'll do, excuse me, plate modifier, rail. These guys are great for just adding a bit of detail where there really isn't anything necessary. And I think they come in dark gray, which would be great. But again, I don't know if I'll have to jumper it or not from underneath, but let's do a 2x4 plate. Oh, come on. Sometimes this really bothers me. So sometimes Studio gets a weird, if you're looking at it on the top, the software wants to click down. So if you have a part, it wants to go down on top of something. If you flip it over and you bring the part, the part is basically on a plane and it's going like this, but if it senses another part, it wants to go on top of it. They're figuring that you're building up, right? And so a lot of times when I flip something over, it jostles around looking for a place to attach to, and it can't. So you just kind of have to monkey with it. They've done a lot of improvements on how the parts attach and how they snap together. I still feel like, and I've played with LDD and I've played with LDraw, and I still feel like this is the most intuitive and easy to use software. So shout out to BrickLink and Studio again, or Stud.io. Their product is still, I think, one of the better ones. There's one part. There's home plates. Nope. Wedge plate. This little guy, he's so cool. If I can get him out of the palette. But he doesn't come in that dark gray, does he? No. It's a really cool part, though. Oh, this mouse is driving me crazy. This whole thing's got to go. The whole system is broken. Because it's a great front wedge shape. You don't have to get two wedge shapes. I'm pointing at the screen like you can see what I'm talking about. Like this one's a little wide. These you put together, you'd have to make sure they're supported. It doesn't work really well. This also oddly comes in white because I think it was a home base for like a baseball set that Lego put out. It looks great. I don't think I'm going to be able to use it, but I really wish I could. All right, yes, I know. Daylight saving time starts. It's going to mess everybody up. Real quick, this shirt. All your brick are belong to us. This is another Will Heron. I don't know if it's exclusive, but this is one of the first shirts that I got from him way back in 2011 or 12 or something like that. So he's good with all the Lego shirts. If you ever want a Lego shirt, Will Heron Designs. So again, are we out of music? That can't be right. Artist. And I'm looking for, I think it's just playing the one album. Sorry, we only got about 15 minutes left, so I'll just pick something. Again, sorry, I haven't figured out the audio bit yet. I thought I had more albums than that from him. All right, so you can't use that. Sorry, there was some dead air while I was looking for stuff. I might be able to do a jumper here and put a little round bit. It still needs to come to a point, which is kind of sad because I don't know what else to do with it. I'm going to do these guys. Where are they? That'll look good. They don't come in that color. Oh, you know what? That's a shell, though. We can do that. Yeah, that's all right. So now I want to do... yeah, that's a pretty good look. I still want to try to figure out how to get that little gun in there, but it may not be able to get 2 barrels. I'm just trying to think of what kind of parts I can use for that and still cram it all in there. And this is where a lot of trial and error comes up. At the very least, I'll do this to start. And we're already adding a layer. So it's got to be, now it's got to be even smaller. Yeah, I don't know. If you've got any ideas, make a comment. I think I'm going to abandon that for now. So let's see, how far back can we go on this? So we're going to jumper this in the back too. Jumper, the word of the day. So we'll go ahead and put a 3x plate under that. Get that stabilized. And then we will and I think on this one I'm going to do that. Because I want to make sure, again, we talked about this last time, where we want to make sure it's stable. Oh, and that may be the problem. I can't get another one in there. Alright, so we won't do that one. We'll end up doing 2 of these at the very least. And I don't know what the back ass ship of this looks like back here. But we're going to start getting into thrusters, so I'm going to have to leave some area for putting a bunch of these cones and 1x1 cylinders and stuff like that back here. This is a part that always bothered me about Lego making these thrusters, is once you get to this size, if I wanted to do a bunch of these thrusters, a cluster, right? So there's how many? We've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Copy, paste, 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 paste. All right. So that's 7. I got to get 7 of those back here. And by 1 round tile in. Oh, these also need to be darker. So these all need to be select by type. And they'll need to be that. And then I'm going to color that trans orange because it is a thruster. Trans orange. So copy, paste, 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 paste. So this is just to show you, you can see how much room this is going to take up, right? What I may end up doing, and it doesn't make it any smaller, but at least you don't have the cylinders taking up space, is I might do a couple of them on this, and yeah, maybe on the bottom too. What colors can I get out of that? Can this be, nope, that might have to be black. So this will be the struggle. This will be the next struggle, is trying to cram all the thrusters into that. And if I have to abandon some of them, I will. It's a bit loud. We'll just have to see. It all kind of has to fit under. It all has to fit under this, right? And within the. Let me see if it'll. You can see it all has to fit within this little area, and I just don't think that's going to be possible. It might be, you know, if I put these two down on the same level as each other, you know, they'll have to be right next to each other, and then one guy up top and one guy, and I think I might shape them differently, like that I might just have sticking out of a Technic brick, and these guys might be cones. So I could do 1x1 cone, might look a little better. The other thing is too, if you can add more parts of similar nature, so like there's more cones right there, instead of having 2 parts or 1 part, you can have multiple parts. It's easier for shipping and buying later. So a lot of Lego sets you'll see will have pairs, just because it's easier to build in pairs. Everything's symmetrical, but also because you can get the idea with the Lego system is you want to be able to rebuild. You don't want to just build a set and leave it. There's a lot of collectors that build sets and just leave them. But if you're a kid, you want to build it, take it apart, build something else, play with it. So the more bricks you can cram into a set that are multi-use, the better. And if you can get pairs of them, and if you can get multiple copies of them, it works better for the playability of it later. So anytime I have a model that only has like 1 piece in it that's kind of specialized, I'm kind of like, I feel a little bad about that, but you know, we'll see how it goes. So it's been about an hour and a half. I think we're going to cut it. Again, I'll work on this and I'll show you the finished product next week. Hopefully next week I might do a nighttime broadcast, so maybe Friday night, maybe Thursday night, it really depends. I'll post in the groups I'm in, Facebook, Instagram. If you're an Instagram fan, I'll let you guys know. And hopefully by then I'll get some parts in, so I can we can actually maybe do a little building. I'll build. There's 2 sets that I want to get in. If I haven't shown you guys these already, this is another shout out to Creative Brick Builders here in, well, it's Round Rock, but it's us in Austin. They are a resale shop, and they also they host parties and events, and they're a great place to go buy sets and buy figures. And if you have a children's party or an activity that you want to run, they have meeting space and they have play areas. It's a great shop. The owner's fantastic. But I cleaned them out of some Star Wars figures a while back, and I need to go back and get some more. Anything that goes into a set that there's a figure for already, like this one with Count Dooku, I could get a Count Dooku figure, so it's no problem. So I've got a bunch of figures that need sets. So here's a Ventress that I need to get her Genevex fighter. There's a Slave Leia, or a Hutt Slayer Leia. And I found a design of a sail barge Microfighter. This is like a scout trooper that I've got 3 or 4 walkers that I'm doing. I think this is Admiral Piet. It just says Imperial Officer, but I think it's Admiral Piet. So I might put him on some sort of Star Destroyer. The Executor, I think, is what I'm going to do. This is one of my first designs. This is Newt Gunray, and one of the first designs I did that was my own design was the Lukhash-class battleship, and it's a weird design. It's a lot of snot builds, and it's got a bunch of curved wedge shapes that are kind of held together by 1x1s. It's just really odd. And there's, you know, AT&T thing and a Phase 1 clone trooper that I'll probably put on the AT-AP. And I think that's it. I've got a couple others floating around somewhere, like a couple Rebel troopers that I'm going to put in the. I'm going to combine these 2 guys for the GR75 transport. So again, Creative Brick Builders, great place. If you're in this area, do look them up and stop by and say hi. And don't clean them out of all their Star Wars figures, because I still need to go get some. Again, shout out to Big Kid Bricks, who's putting these together and hopefully selling them at shows. And again, thanks to Imp Bricks for doing some instructions that are going around Rebrickable. And I think that's it for now, guys. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.